Greetings, this is Michael W. Ford. In concern of the Yatuk Dinoih and what is called Deva Yasna, or demon worship, I'd like to present to you a quick and aided with the questions that I put out there that you guys returned to me, some of the basics of the Yatuk Dinoih and how it's really different from Goetia and other avenues. And I'd like to say that probably within the next year, there will be a new Yatuk Dinoih grimoire, which delves even deeper into the foundations of this realistic and historical cult. Now, I want you to understand that Zoroastrianism is a reforming type of religion that was adopted and developed and kind of changed a little bit by a man named Zarathustra, or Zoroast, dated sometime between 1500 BC and 600 BC. Now, they're not sure which exactly because there's very little on him. They know he existed based on this text called the Gathas, which were written down about the time of his death or survived later on. A lot of them were oral in history, and they deal with the religion of the tribal region in which he lived. He reformed that area. As time went on, the Zoroastrian religion expanded throughout what is now Iran, and throughout the various 3 different Persian empires, used it as the state religion. Of course, putting their own dogma, restrictions, and right to rule on it, much like Christianity did. Now, I will tell you that right next door in that region of Bactria, which was now in Afghanistan and Pakistan area, you have India. Northern India, you know the Rig Vedas and the various gods through the Rig Vedas, such as Indra and various other ones, was a religion which utilized fire. It utilized making offerings of juniper, calling the devas, which is devas is another word for God, not just demons or evil spirit, but God. This path, this religious practice, sorceress, witchcraft practice, was for the betterment of the tribal community, the individual, and the warrior caste that would do nomadic raids into the Bactria area. In fact, Zarathustra was killed by some Turanians, or what they call Dahe, Confederates, which Dahe is another word for, as you know, Dahak, or dragon. They carried the dragon standard and were nomads. They later became the Parthians around the time of the Roman Empire. So the Zoroastrian religion spread well after the death of Zarathustra. It was adopted because the Deva cult expanded all the way into the Hittite regions of Anatolia. The Hittites, we know this because the Hittites have a treaty with someone else where they invoke some of the what are now called archdevas of Ahriman, who are India Vedic gods. Were they evil? No. There was not really specifically good and evil. You had ones that did harm, just like in Babylonia, but for the most part, if you offered to them and embodied their elements by living according to their tribal laws, nothing was evil. Now, today is a little different. Christians will tell you anything's evil. That's not from whatever their law of the day is. Zoroastrian religion is very small now, and they would tell you Deva worship is horrible, don't do it. But I'll tell you that one of the areas that embodied Luciferianism and gave it a black flame, if you will, fire, was my initiation, self-initiation into the Deva Yasna, or the Yatuk cult. I adopted the name Ataya, which means filth, evil, pestilence, by working through various difficult tasks and getting into nature, the dark aspects of nature, death, decay, working with animal remains, serpent skins, primal sorceries, totally encircling myself with the literal belief in what I was doing. when I went to work the next day, years ago, day job, dressed up, proper, hiding as much as I could who I was to fit into and control my area of command. I put that aside and used reason, logic, and all those things that Luciferians do, and to great success. For the past few years, I've kind of put that on the back burner because I have so many things working that my daemon pushes me towards. But now, we're going to get more into the Yatuk Dinoih. Know this, that the rituals are not for specifically atheistic types, because you're going to enter a circle and visually, just like any ritual, believe it literally for that moment. That fantasy becomes reality. When you have that belief, when there's no space in between the belief and the reality, when it's the same, then things happen. And I know this because as a child, much of my ritual work was from what I call idiotic books now. Like when I was 11, I read and did rituals out of the Necronomicon because that's all I had. Now we know it's very loosely based off the Yatuk Dinoih series, which I work with as well. Translations, but very mixed up and not really the same. But when I did those rituals, we had all kinds of happenings go on, and I attribute that now to energy and the mind and belief. And that's what it takes, and that's how I got where I have taken myself through that. A very interesting first question is, what would you say the primary focus within the Yatukic tradition in comparison with Goetic summoning and ritualistic application? Okay, so the Goetia is a loosely combined jargon, kind of mixed up soup, if you will, of old pre-Christian pantheon gods turned into demons. Their attributes really lessened to basic drives and put in a Christian context of torment and command without purpose, and calling on a god that doesn't exist to control these powers, which are within us and in nature. Very hard to deal with, although it's what people always go to first, because it's most commonly available. Yatuk Dinoih is a pure source. It is specifically India, or Indo-Iranian, Indo-Persian, some of the Dahe, Scythian influences, blended with the Iranian, Anatolian areas of ritual belief. So you have a pure doctrine focused on the inversion and understanding of darkness, the primal instinct, not to obtain petty lusts, but to develop those lusts within you, to shape them into powerful energy sources in your life, and for your daemon, to create that shadows, to create yourself as Ahriman. So that type of magic, sorcery, is for certain people only. You have to be attuned to the darkness. If you're not, don't mess with it. Stick with plain Luciferianism, which is the traditional balanced light and darkness working in unison. Yatuk Dinoih is complete darkness, but finding the black flame within that. That is the major